Hey everybody, welcome to Big Valley Living. We went to the farmer's market and we got loads of pretty vegetables, and it's going to be in the 80s in the Big Valley this week already. It's only March, but we wanted to share our Instant Pot recipe for old-fashioned stew. We're going to call it Farmer's Market Stew because we got multicolored carrots and fresh onions and some really nice stewing beef. So let's go in the kitchen and see what we got cooking. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put in just about maybe not even a full tablespoon of oil. I have turned the Instant Pot onto saute because the first thing that we're going to do is put our meat in here. We have just over 2 pounds of stewing beef. We just purchased it this way at the butcher. We're going to cook that until it's brown. Make sure. Okay, so remember, when you're cooking food, when you're cooking proteins, you want to let it cook until it releases from the pan. This was hot to start with, so it's releasing quickly. Ooh, it's already browning up nicely. And you don't need a ton of spice at this point, but I do want to go ahead and start layering the flavors. There's just a little bit of sea salt here that I'm going to throw in. Okay. And a little fresh ground pepper. Neither one of these adds up to even a full teaspoon. This is just to add some flavor early in the game. I'm going to let that sit for a couple minutes and let it brown up. I already have my vegetables cut up because it is just 10 times easier when you're doing an Instant Pot meal to have everything just ready to go. Let's go ahead and put in a little Worcestershire sauce here. Again, I don't know, maybe a couple teaspoons up to a tablespoon. It all depends on what flavor profile you would like. We're just building depth again. And this goes quickly. It's only been cooking for about 3 minutes. And in just a second, we're going to go ahead and we'll be removing this to get the onions sauteed. And now what I want to do is remove the meat from the pan. It's still on saute, so make sure that you keep on top of that time because we're going to put the onions in next, and you need to be sure that your saute feature stays on. So if it looks like you're going to run out of time, if you have about less than 6 minutes or so, you may want to cancel your Instant Pot and then just turn it back on saute again to whatever the default is. On mine, we have a Duo Plus. You get a 12-minute setting by default. And I'm going to drop it. All right, I'm going to get in your face now. Sorry. There we go. I'm trying to do this so you can see everything without my hands in the way. All right, so I just let this go down just a little bit. There's really not any deglazing to go on here, but if you didn't have this much liquid, you would want to deglaze this a little bit with either some water or wine, whatever you want. Okay, but I am putting these onions in. This onion, this is one medium onion. It's about a cup. And one thing I need you to understand is that with stew, because it's going to be under pressure, don't cut anything too small, because it will end up, just breaking down completely and you won't have those chunks. If after you're dished up, you want to cut your carrots into a more bite-sized piece or your potatoes into a more bite-sized piece, they'll be firm enough to do that. But if you start out too small, you're not going to end up with anything. Okay, so the goal here is just to soften these onions. It only takes a couple of minutes. This is coming along nicely. Oh, look at that. Okay. See how the liquid is also evaporating. This is exactly what we want to happen. Now these are starting to soften up just nicely. So I've got 2 cloves of fresh garlic, because friends don't let friends use jarred garlic. And I'm going to saute those and just let them bloom for a second. We don't want to get them, we don't want them in there too long because they'll get bitter. So I mean, I'm literally just giving them about 30 seconds. Also, just the tiniest bit of tomato paste, a tablespoon or so. That's why I like to buy these tubes, because then I can just put the cap on and put it away without wasting a whole little one. And you see I'm just going to zhush it around a little bit here. Okay, break it up. And the other liquid will finish that. Okay. And now we're going to go ahead and throw some, we made homemade beef bone broth. You could get a carton, like I would get one of those quart cartons, because that's what this is, of beef broth at the grocery store for this. We're going to actually top everything off with water. If you want a super beefy flavor and you don't have bone broth on hand and you don't have any beef broth, I have used better than bouillon before and just mix it up according to your taste. Usually a couple teaspoons to a cup would be sufficient, but you can always have control over how rich it is. So this is still going, and we're going to bring it, I want to bring it up to more of a boil, and then we're going to throw everything else in there and get it pressurized. You know, I just thought about it. There is absolutely no need to bring it up to a boil because we're going to be pressure cooking it here in a minute. So I'll tell you what, we're going to throw the meat back in. We are going to put our, oh God, you guys, at the farmer's market today, we got these multicolored carrots and they taste exactly the same. But they say that the darker the color of your vegetables, right, the more beta carotene you're going to get in those carrots. So I'm thinking those purple ones, along with these white ones, are going to give us the same nutritional value as the orange ones. But they sure look pretty, and it's fun to eat pretty food, isn't it? Okay, so my saute is done, and I'm just draining off my potato chunks. Because after I had peeled and cut my potatoes into very large chunks, you can put them in salty water to keep them from turning colors. And I have Yukon Golds, and then I had some nice fresh red potatoes, and I peeled them all. But you can see that they do have slightly different color. Yukon Gold's going to hold up well. Again, keep your chunks big so that they don't break down. You can break them down later with your fork, and you'll be just fine. Now we're going to throw in some fresh thyme and a nice bay leaf. We're going to put, I think, just the tiniest extra bit of garlic powder, maybe a teaspoon. Okay, just measure it out with your hand. I want to get some flavor in this, and it always tastes better after it's infused from the actual, about a teaspoon, ooh, that's a little bit more than I wanted. About a teaspoon of onion powder as well. And now we're gonna throw a little bit more salt and pepper in there. And we're gonna put water so that it covers the top, just filtered water. I'm gonna use the same jar that I used that I had the bone broth in. Now I'm throwing a little more pepper in here, as you can see, than I did when we were doing the meat, because this is pretty much the last time we're going to see this bad boy until it's finished. All right, my lovely assistant JJ is adding more water, and I really kind of think that that's good. What do you think, JJ?
I think that's fine.
Alrighty, so
dandy.
I'll give it just the tiniest stir. You want to cover your vegetables and meat, and I'm gonna say that this is good because the vegetables will sweat. Perfect. Now we're gonna put the lid on and we'll set it to go. All right, now you see this line right here? This is your this is the lid, and there's a line on the front of your machine, and that's how you're gonna start. So you're gonna line those up, and then you're gonna turn it until it locks. And then and you need to also make sure that the vent is closed, and you can check that right there. Okay, and we are going to turn this on, and we're going to pressure cook on high for 25 minutes. In the moment of truth. So after it has to pressurize for a little bit, and then it does its pressure cooking, and then you want to do a natural release, and that takes a little bit of time. Once that was all done, hi Leo. Once that was all done, I went ahead and I pressed this little button over here to make sure that all of the pressure was released. And now we're gonna just move the lid back over to where it had been, and I'm gonna, open it away from myself. Always open it away. Make sure you don't get yourself burned or anything, and that steam takes off. So as you can see, I have hands of steel here. I'm gonna remove the thyme. The bay leaf came up to the top, and then there's that one tiny bit of thyme that I'm going to take off of there, okay? Because I know I'd put a 3 sprigs, I believe. So now what we're going to do, there we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn it back on to a saute, because we need to heat it back up. So I hit saute, start. It's going to go for 12 minutes. I'm not going to need all that time. But the reason that I'm doing that is we are going to thicken this. Oh, wow, those purple carrots turned into a kind of an interesting color. It's still going to taste super good, but that's kind of, they're not purple now. They're not purple now. All right. Anyway, the potatoes look really, really good, though, and everything just looks yummy. And for the most part, most of us are just going to use orange carrots. Come on now, let's be honest. We're friends. So I'm going to go ahead, and I have a cornstarch slurry right here. This is roughly 2 parts water to 1 part cornstarch. We don't really need to make it too watery. And what I'm doing is thickening the stew. And you saw I was doing like a steady stream there, kind of slowly. And I'm just going to give it a moment to come up to temperature. And you see it's starting to boil a little bit, and that's what you want it to do. And don't pour all of the slurry in at once. You may need to do more of a slurry. I'm trying to be super careful as well, because I don't want to break the vegetables open. Oh, there must be a squirrel or something outside. And anyway, the boiling action is what's actually going to bring your stew to a point where it thickens. So this can take a couple of minutes, not too long. And you may have to do more. It probably depends on the temperature outside, the temperature in your house, and whatever kind of humidity is going on. But in this case, I am going to add a little bit more. There we go. And I personally think that's going to be enough, but we're going to give it a couple of minutes, and I'll show you in a second. I am going to do more slurry because it's not as thick as I would like. I'll tell you what, guys, if this doesn't do it, I don't know what will. I do notice, JJ, tell me if I'm wrong, there's a little bit more of a red hue to this than usual, and I kind of wonder if that has to do with the purple carrots.
Maybe a purple carrot, yeah. Sure.
A little bit.
It looks good.
Oh yeah, it does. It smells totally normal, totally predictable here. Now, look at this. See how much those potatoes broke down? Imagine if we had have done tiny dices. You wouldn't see any vegetables. So that right there is a testament to why we did that. Okay? Oh yeah, that's thickening up the way that we expect it right there. Well, I think we need to let this just finish up for a second. And what do you think? Dinner time?
Definitely dinner time.
All right. It was that simple. It really doesn't take very long. I think it takes just about as long for the machine to pressurize after you get the lid on as it does for all of the other components. Couple things I want to remind you about. If you don't can your own broth, don't sweat it. Just go to the grocery store and get yourself some beef broth, or use the Better Than Bouillon beef like I suggested. They're both really good, and you know, they lend a lot of flavor to it. So try that if you don't can. And the multicolored carrots taste exactly like the orange carrots. We just wanted the flair, you know, it looked pretty cool. And they do taste good, but just like any other homegrown carrot, which is what they had at the farmer's market, delicious. What was the other thing I wanted to make sure that I shared with you? I'm pretty sure I forgot one tip or another here, but that's all I got for you today. Anyway, thank you so much for visiting Big Valley Living. We really appreciate you coming by and enjoying another one of our homemade recipes. I'm Michelle.
And I'm JJ.
And if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. Always, always give us a thumbs up and share with your friends. And our channel continues to grow, and we appreciate that. So on that note, I'm looking at my hubby.
See you later, everybody.
Be kind. Bye.